We begin at the University of Toronto, where students at the pro-Palestinian encampment on campus have been issued a trespass notice. The school says protesters have until Monday morning to leave. However, they remain firmly entrenched. Ithel Musa is at campus right now and joins us live. So, Ithel, what are you hearing from where you are?
Well, Travis, the students say they are going to stay put. They are remaining steadfast, really. They want their demands met, and they do not want to leave until that is a done deal. Now, they say they would like to continue, speaking to university officials. They're open, to negotiating, but essentially they are asking for three things, and let me just tell you what they are. The first is they want the University of Toronto to disclose its financial dealings. They also, number two, want the university to divest from any kind of financial dealings that have any ties to funding the Israeli military. And finally, they want the University of Toronto to cut ties with Israeli academic institutions that are operating inside the Palestinian occupied territories. Now, I spoke to several of the protesters. One of them today said, look, the University of Toronto has divested, from oil projects before. They've divested from South African companies and organizations during apartheid, and they do feel that they can again divest on, this very issue. I also spoke to another protester that said, they have rejected the university's offer, but that should not be the end of negotiations. They are open and willing to talk. Take a listen.
Do not plan to leave anytime soon. And I also want to come back to the reason that they issued us this notice. They put out their first offer to us yesterday, more of an ultimatum that they are framing as the final offer. U of T knows how to bargain. They bargain with unions on campus all the time. The first written offer cannot be the final offer. And so we are currently preparing our counter offer, and hopefully we're able to discuss that at the 5 p.m. meeting on Sunday.
Okay, so they're preparing a counteroffer here. The students did reject the university's first offer. We'll see if there's a second offer from the university. What more can you tell us, Ithel, about what the school is saying tonight and how they're responding?
Yeah, well, so far, we know that the school has said that they will not, cut ties with, Israeli universities. Now, they did say that they are open to speaking with the students, particularly on June 19th. They said that they would like them to meet with officials and, to discuss some of their demands. But we do know that before that meeting, that there will be a meeting this weekend on Sunday at 5 o'clock. So things could progress. But the university says it's open to talking to students. They also say that they are creating a working group that's going to consider options for disclosure and increased transparency when it comes to their financial dealings. So that's not quite what the university students are asking for. The university's president says he's in a tough bind. He has to, balance the right of these students to protest, against the safety of some of the other students. He says some students are not feeling safe on campus. He spoke to the CBC's David Common on Metro Morning earlier today. Here's some of what he had to say.
The tensions that have been generated by the continued presence of the encampment have reached a point where we feel now is the time to end the encampment. The students have had ample opportunity to exercise their right of freedom of expression and their right of protest. They will be able to continue to do that, but through other means.
So U of T president there, Merrick Gertler, the university says, Travis, that there have been 38 reports of harassment, discrimination, and, quote, hateful speech and hateful actions as a result of the encampment. That is one of the main reasons the university says it wants to see this encampment shut down. Travis?
Ithel Musa on our top story tonight from the University of Toronto's downtown campus. Well, joining me now is Erin Mackey. She is the spokesperson for the Occupy for Palestine movement at the University of Toronto. She joins me from that encampment that was just behind Ithel there. So, Erin, the university started handing out these trespass notices at 4 p.m. Eastern. What has happened in the hours since?
Well, they handed out this notice, and I'm still here. Students are still here. We are here steadfast in our demands, demanding the University of Toronto divest from Israeli apartheid and its complicity in its ongoing genocide. I think, the notice that we received said that they want us to vacate by Monday morning at 8 a.m. And so, we have the meeting, as was mentioned, on Sunday at 5 p.m., despite this threat of increased, police presence, because we believe that there is more room to push this administration and the University of Toronto must divest from Israeli apartheid.
So certainly, I'm just looking through this now, the trespass notice here. There's certainly, a lot of threats here in terms of a fine of, $10,000, possible disciplinary action under the Code of Student Conduct. Does any of that give you pause?
No, so for me personally, I'm a fourth-year student. I actually finished my undergraduate coursework in April, and so I'm one of the students who's graduating in June. So for the University of Toronto to come back around and deny me that would be quite ridiculous. And there are many students here who, are aware of the risks, of course, but they actually have no other option than to demand better of their institution, right? So there's many Palestinian students who pay tuition just as I do, just as everyone else, to this institution, and that money goes to fund the development of weapons and bombs that are used to murder their friends, their family, and destroy their homes and their universities, right? And so they actually have no other choice than to, demand the University of Toronto do better. And so, we are here, we'll continue to be here, and we'll continue to demand divestment.
The trespass notice also outlines a deadline for students to leave, as we've been talking about, by Monday, or possibly be forcibly removed. If your demands are not met by Monday at 8 a.m., what is the plan for you specifically, but also, the larger group that's there with you?
Yeah, so, like I mentioned, we have the meeting at 5 p.m. on Sunday, and so we are, hopeful this administration will come around and, meet us and do the right thing, right? They've given us a proposal for a committee. We're not interested in committees, we're interested in commitments. And so, we'll just kind of have to see. We know that the Toronto Police previously in a public statement said that they would only be present if the University of Toronto called them. And so if the U of T does decide to do that and does decide to escalate, that says a lot more about U of T and President Gertler than it does about any of the students who are here, right? That indicates to us that U of T is much more invested in making a profit and being a corporation than being a university that cares about its education and educating, future generations.
One of the demands that you have, the group has, is that the university should divest from Israeli universities with military ties. Would you say that they should sever potential ties with universities from other countries with questionable human rights records, such as China, as well?
So the University of Toronto actually has done so. So there is a policy from the Ontario government that actually prohibits universities from engaging in partnerships with Russia specifically. And so, those types of things, there is a precedent for this. And ultimately, we're not asking for an academic boycott. We're asking for the University of Toronto to cut ties with universities that are on illegal occupied territories, which the United Nations recognizes as illegal settlements. And so, it's a bit odd that the university thinks it's above international law, right? And, specifically with these research partnerships and these partnerships with these universities, one in particular, the U of T's partnership with Hebrew University, we find particularly egregious because that is a partnership to develop AI technology, which we know is being used to target civilians in Gaza and in Palestine. And so we call that into question. And I know that President Gertler spoke about academic freedom this morning on Metro Morning News. And I think it's really important to discuss, whose academic freedom we are talking about and we are considering, right? Because it's most certainly not the academic freedom of the scholars and professors at the universities in Gaza, right? Because all 12 of them have been destroyed.
Let me ask you this. I understand that there's a small number of Jewish students that are protesting in the encampment alongside with you. But many other Jewish and Israeli students say that they feel intimidated by instances like when demonstrators were chanting, all the Zionists are racist, and chalk on the ground reading, go back to Europe. What's being done to make sure Jewish students on campus don't feel intimidated?
Yeah, so, at this encampment, we have a zero tolerance policy for any sort of form of hate speech, whether that be anti-Palestinian racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism. And, the particular chalk that you're mentioning, that person had never been seen at the encampment before. They came in and wrote that, and then they were promptly removed and have not been allowed back in since. And with regards to, specific chants in reference to Zionism, so, anti-Zionism is very different than anti-Semitism. There is a distinct and clear difference. There are many Jewish students here at the university, Jewish faculty, who are fervent anti-Zionists and also, proud of their Jewish faith and their Jewish identity. we're actually holding a Shabbat dinner later today, I think in about an hour or so here. So there'll be over 100 Jewish faculty and students who will gather in prayer. And so, that's been happening every Friday that we've been here. And so, there are, of course, some who disagree and feel unsafe, but the Jewish students that I've spoken to at this encampment actually feel more unsafe by the University of Toronto weaponizing their faith, their identity, by agitators who come in and yell horrific things at them in particular, horrific anti-Semitic slurs that I will not repeat. And so, it's important to consider, that it's not a monolith, right? And that there are many people who are Jewish who are fervently anti-Zionist.
Okay, Aaron, appreciate the time tonight and your perspective on this. We will likely talk to you in the days ahead here as this story is not yet over. That was Aaron Mackey. She is the spokesperson for the Occupy for Palestine movement at the University of Toronto's downtown campus. Joining us now is Jay Solomon. He is the Chief Advancement Officer for Hillel Ontario, a group that advocates on behalf of Jewish students, including at the University of Toronto. So, Jay, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
If the encampment doesn't clear by Monday, what do you hope to see from the U of T?
Well, Jewish students on campuses at U of T and certainly across the province as well over the last number of weeks have really been suffering. They have been suffering from intimidation and harassment. They have been suffering at the hands of these unlawful occupations that have been going on now for far too long. And it'll be interesting to see what the U of T chooses to do come Monday at 8 a.m.
What do you make of the fact that the university has been in serious negotiation here for weeks with students over this?
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging for me that they're even negotiating with this group. This is a group that for weeks now has been displaying hateful anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish imagery, including pro-Hamas rhetoric, including signs that say Hail Hitler and chants that say Hail Hitler, including signs and chants that call for Zionists to be removed from campus. Of course, we all know that Zionist is another word for Jew. So the fact that the university is even negotiating with a group that is so offside with Canadian values is deeply challenging.
I mean, the university administration has said that they don't want to see what's happened at some other university campuses where police go in and there is violence. Would you like to have seen police go in?
Well, what I'd like not to see is I'd like not to see violent imagery targeting Jews on a campus in Ontario or Canada or United States or really anywhere else. Jewish students, like every other student, deserve to be able to go to university on a campus free from harassment and intimidation. And the university has a responsibility to follow its policies and procedures to ensure the safety, as I said, of Jewish students and, of course, all students. They haven't been doing that over the course of the last number of weeks. And, universities have, I'm sure, many tools at their disposal that they should be using. Frankly, they haven't been.
I don't have to tell you that not all Jewish students have the same views on this. There are also Jewish students at the encampment. What do you think about that, and how much weight does that carry for you?
I mean, like every community, the Jewish community is not monolithic. There are people with differing perspectives. I can tell you the overwhelming majority of Canadians and the overwhelming majority of Canadian students are Zionists. They believe at a fundamental level that the Jewish people should have a right to a Jewish state, just like any other people should. So, are there Jewish people in the encampment? I don't know. You'd have to ask them. But if they are, I can assure you that they are not representative of mainstream Jewish community perspectives.
Protesters continuously insist they have a zero-tolerance policy to anti-Semitic statements and say that some people are making anti-Semitic remarks. They've been kicked out of these encampments. If that is the case, would it be fair to categorize all these protesters as, intimidators?
Well, you'd have to ask them about, what they've been saying and what they've been doing. But the pictures and the videos speak for themselves. And there have been pro-Hamas posters shown at the University of Toronto. There have been chants for Zionists to be removed from campus at these unlawful occupations all across the province and indeed across North America. That is antithetical to Canadian values, and it's deeply challenging and deeply disturbing for Jewish Canadians, for Jewish students on campus, their parents, their families. As I said, Jewish students, like every other student, deserves to go to university in a place free from intimidation and harassment. I'll also say, these unlawful occupations are threatening graduation and commencement for students who already had their high school graduation and commencements disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. It's shameful that a university would allow anti-Israel activists to threaten to do that again to the same cohort.
We're almost out of time here, Jay, but I do want to ask you, at this point, what will it take for the campus to be a safe space for both sides of this debate to engage in free expression about it?
Well, that's certainly something that we at Hillel strive for. I can tell you we track anti-Semitic incidents across the province. This year, we have seen over 4 times the number of reports of anti-Semitism as we've seen over last year, or frankly, any other year that we've been tracking over the last 6 years. Jewish students on campus want to have a peaceful, welcoming campus for them, for their friends, for their families, and even those on the other side. As I said, our community doesn't have one set of beliefs. Ultimately, what we want is we want peace, we want coexistence, and we want to be able to study and learn and live and work on a campus with everybody. And unfortunately, these unlawful occupations have brought intimidation and hatred to campuses, and it's time that university leaders across the province and across the country, and our government leaders and well-meaning Canadians stand up and say enough.
Jay, appreciate your perspective on this. That was Jay Solomon, the Chief Advancement Officer for Hillel Ontario, a group that advocates on behalf of Jewish students.